Well, good evening everybody, it's your boy Zero back again with another History Buff Reacts video. This one is the power who took on an enemy with an umbrella and a bowler hat. Yeah, I don't know how this works. This is going to be interesting to say the least, but I'm looking forward to it because I like weird stuff. And this is definitely going to be a bit weird, I think. So, you jump into it. Just a quick note, if you do want to see some more gaming content, head down into the video description. You will see my Twitch link down there. I will be streaming every Monday and Wednesday until further notice. You'll be able to see the gaming stuff over there. For the time being, we'll be bringing gaming back to this channel eventually. But for now, History Buff Reacts, the power who took an enemy with an umbrella and a bowling hat. Let's go.
The British para who took on the enemy with an umbrella and a bowler hat.
He's got a pistol there.
1944, World War II. It's fall of 1944 and the daring Allied airborne assault on Arnhem in the Netherlands is in full swing. A bold combined land and air operation by the Allies to try and seize control of several key German-occupied bridges in an attempt to create an Allied invasion route into northern Germany. In the midst of the bloody battle at Arnhem Bridge, a young officer of the legendary British Parachute Regiment could be seen wearing a bowler hat and waving an umbrella frantically. The officer was Alison Digby Tatham Warder, company commander of A Company of the 2nd Parachute Battalion. He was fearlessly leading a bayonet charge in an attempt to try and throw back a German armored counterattack that threatened to retake the critical bridge that the A Company had seized that morning. So who was this man and why was he wearing a bowler hat?
Definitely a bold man though. Bloody hell. Just imagine seeing that, just a company of armed soldiers just coming towards you and the officer is just have at them boys, you get the bastards. That'd be weird, that.
Carrying an umbrella in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
While Digby, as he was known to his friends and fellow officers, was born in 1917 in Shropshire, England, which was on the border with Wales.
Shropshire.
Though his family were traditionally farmers, like so many others, his father had served in the First World War and was one of the many who were gassed while in the trenches. Due to this, his father had died prematurely a few years later. But this didn't stop Digby and some of his other siblings from joining up for military service. Digby went to the renowned Sandhurst Military Academy and became an officer in the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry Regiment. He was going to be transferred to the British Indian Army, but the death of his brother, John de Grey Tatham Warder, at the Battle of El Alamein in North Africa on November 2nd, 1942, affected him greatly.
Okay.
Digby, who had been a regular officer since 1937, had so far seen no action. So he volunteered to join the elite parachute regiment, as he now wanted a more frontline role in the war. He quickly built up a reputation for being a wild eccentric. His interest included
Built a reputation of being the wild eccentric. I mean, I can imagine that, especially later on if he's walking around a battlefield with an umbrella and a bowler hat. Interesting.
Included tiger hunting and hunting wild boars using spears. And he was known for his stunts, like when he once commandeered an American Dakota transport plane to fly him and his fellow officers down to London to party at the famous Ritz Hotel, making him a legend among his men. Nevertheless, he was seen by his commanders as a highly skilled officer and able to inspire and lead them aggressively. But he was also seen as a remote figure who expected high standards from those under his command, and he could be quite cold-hearted with his men at times. In September 1944, Major Digby was assigned to Operation Market Garden due to his ability to come up with inventive solutions under pressure. His objective was to capture and hold a strategically important road and rail bridge at Arnhem that spanned the River Rhine. He had only one serious reservation about the whole operation, and that was the reliability of the radio sets that they were going to use. So he came up with an odd...
Yeah, the radio systems in World War II weren't great on both sides of the war, the German Axis and the Allies. The radio systems were useful, but they did have their issues. One big problem they had was range. The other one was clarity, I believe. The radios themselves were not very clear. I think the German ones were a bit more clear and they had slightly better range. But that just comes down to German engineering, really, because, let's be fair, German engineering has always been, a massive thing.
A novel backup plan, and that was bizarrely to train his men to use bugles to relay messages from one unit to another, just like they did in the Napoleonic Wars nearly 150 years before.
I was going to say, that's a Napoleonic Wars call. That's what they used. They used bugles, especially for the lights and the rifles. They used to use bugle calls to give orders. And this is World War II, and this guy's coming up with the idea to use them? Talk about learning from the past. Bloody hell.
As it turned out, his fears were well-founded, as the long-range VHF radios were unknowingly delivered with the wrong crystal diodes, meaning they were operating on a frequency that no one was listening to. Digby's bugle idea proved useful and was used to great effect in the heat of battle to communicate between different parts of his unit. The Major and his men had landed north of Arnhem and had quickly advanced through the town, where they encountered German units supported by tanks and armored cars.
Yeah, the offensive at Arnhem, the Arnhem offensive, was unbelievably bloody. It was so goddamn bloody. All over a bridge. Literally one bridge, but it was a bridge that they had to keep. It was a bridge they had to take, and a bridge they had to defend. So, with a choke point like that, you know for a fact that there's going to be severe losses on both sides, and there was. Huge amounts of losses on both sides.
He chose to go around these units by cutting through the back gardens of the local residents. When they arrived at the bridge, they fought a fierce battle for the next few days between themselves and the German forces. Digby and A Company managed to travel 8 miles in 7 hours and killed or took prisoner over 150 German soldiers, including members of the SS, while having 1 dead and 1 wounded. During the fighting, he was in the habit of wearing his regiment's red beret rather than the standard issue helmet. As well as this, he carried around an umbrella he had brought with him from England. The reason for this was that he wanted to be easily identified by his own troops, as he had trouble remembering the passwords they were meant to call out when encountering friendly units on the battlefield. He reasoned that it would help his troops easily identify him as an Englishman, should he have trouble remembering any battlefield passwords. Digby could be seen walking casually around, waving his umbrella and wearing a red beret instead of a helmet, while checking the defenses as mortar fire went off around him during...
I'm just trying to imagine what that would have looked like to the Germans. They're just seeing this guy walking on umbrella and waving it around and giving orders with it. I was just thinking, probably looking and thinking, what the hell is he doing?
During the battle. This, in fact, kept morale high for the British paratroopers when defeat was imminent. When a signalman was running up and down with a shopping basket to find ammunition, Digby told him to seek cover, as there were snipers about, and he was an easy target. A humorous comment, given that he himself was walking up and down with his umbrella, directing his troops to new positions. Now surrounded and being forced to seek shelter in burning or demolished buildings, Digby decided to lead a bayonet charge against advancing German SS troops when they tried to attack over the bridge.
Risky.
While doing this, he was wearing a bowler hat that he had acquired, waving his umbrella in one hand and a pistol in the other as he did so. Digby and his men successfully drove back the German attack on this occasion, despite them having Panzer IV tanks.
Wow.
Later in the battle, he would incapacitate a German armored car by poking the driver in the eye with the tip of his umbrella through the observation slit of the vehicle.
Come on.
Digby then noticed a chaplain who was suppressed by enemy fire while trying to cross the street to get to injured soldiers. He reassured him by saying, "Don't worry about the bullets, I've got an umbrella," and escorted the chaplain into safety.
Really?
An officer then commented, "That thing won't do you any good," to which Digby replied, "Oh my goodness, Pat, but what if it rains?" But sadly, despite his and his men's valiant effort, after 3 days and 4 nights of intense fighting, Digby and his men were forced to surrender. They had now become totally surrounded with no chance of relief, and they had run out of food, water, and now ammunition. Even though they were unreliable, the radios were at least able to get out the message, "Out of ammo, God save the king," before they were captured. Digby had been injured by shrapnel earlier that day, which cut open the rear of his trousers, and he was taken to the local German-held hospital. But as soon as he and his second-in-command, Captain Tony Frank, were left alone by the German nurses, they escaped through a first-floor window. A week later, using a makeshift compass from buttons on their uniforms, they found the Dutch resistance. Among them were many British paratroopers who had escaped and were in hiding, a number of aircrew and even Russian prisoners of war. So finding places to shelter and hide was not an easy task. Digby was disguised, along with a fake ID, by the resistance as Peter Jensen, playing a character of a deaf-mute son of a lawyer from The Hague. With his bicycle, he was unusually bold as he visited the other men in hiding while in his new identity. His manner was so casual and natural that it did not invite suspicion from the Germans. It even seemed like he was inviting danger, as one time he stopped to lend a hand to help push a German staff car out of a ditch. Another time, a group of Germans were billeted in the same house where he was sheltered. He would frequently find himself attempting to enter the house at the same time as the Germans, letting them enter first. One day he grew tired of being polite and insisted that he entered first. After a mild dispute and a scornful gaze at the Germans, they allowed him to go before them. From then on, they would nod at him and occasionally pat him on the back. With 138 men assembled, Operation Pegasus, the plan to escape the Allied lines, had begun. The escapees were armed and had their boots wrapped in rags to silence any noise, although Digby compared their stealth to a herd of stampeding elephants. He ordered every man to proceed to the river on their belly. There was only a brief exchange with the Germans, who preferred to turn and flee, perhaps thinking they were a large American patrol. When they reached the riverbank, Digby, using Morse code, flashed a V signal on his red torch, and the British troops, recognizing them, managed to ferry all the escapees across the river safely.
Cool.
Digby was later awarded the Distinguished Service Order Medal for the bravery and leadership he had shown during Operation Market Garden. When the war ended the following year, Digby continued for a time to serve in the British Army, first in British-controlled Palestine, before transferring to the 5th King's African Rifles in British Kenya in 1946.
Wow.
There, he bought large areas of land and retired to pioneer the new concept of offering safaris where people photographed rather than hunted the African wildlife. He died in Kenya on March 21, 1993. At the age of 75, after spending nearly 50 years living quietly there.
Wow. That's the end of the video. Bloody hell. Oh, what a story. That's not a story I expected to hear. Yeah, attack on Arnhem, ended up surrendering, took shrapnel damage, managed to escape, posing as a deaf-mute. What was it, son of a lawyer, I think he said? Oh, and what did he also say? He said he he blinded a German tank driver with his umbrella. Oh, man. What a crazy, crazy man. Oh, but at least he died in peace, though. He didn't die during the war. He died in peace. Like, 50 years later. Wow. I love hearing stories like this. Although, sometimes you have to take them with a little pinch of salt, just in case. Oh, man. But yeah, I think I'll end the video. Not really much to input, more of just I'm really interested in seeing what this video was, especially considering the title. But hopefully, I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Zero, this has been History Buff Reacts, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye!